So yes, this story is true, and yes, I still have nightmares from it. Back when I was 15, me and a few of my neighborhood friends were obsessed with Halloween, especially trick-or-treating. Free candy for just dressing up in a costume? Are you kidding me? That's a no-brainer. Our goal every Halloween was to literally collect as much candy as possible so we could be stocked up for months. And we don't stop until it's clear that the neighborhoods had closed up for the night. Like, we would be out all night until we couldn't anymore. We had already been trick-or-treating for like 3 hours at this point, and it was getting close to 10 p.m. This is when most people start turning off their porch lights and stop giving out candy. We were in my buddy Graham's neighborhood, and he said let's just hit this last house and then call it a night. Mind you, the house he was pointing at was the only house left with its lights on. It was at the far end of the street, kind of all alone by itself. We all head over, excited but sad that this would be the last house we would hit before Halloween was effectively over. We walked up the steps of the house and we see a sign on the door that said, "Candy around back," with an arrow. So, like obedient soldiers, we all make our way to the back of this house. For some context, this house had a sloped backyard. I almost fell walking down it, and unlike the brightly lit front porch, it was completely dark back there. The only real light that we had was the moon above, but even then it was still hard to see. Well, we get to the back, and there's a concrete porch that we can see. We hear this creaking noise, almost like something rocking back and forth. We all take out our cell phones and use them as flashlights and look around. I shine my light on the concrete porch and see this really old lady sitting in some sort of rocking chair with a bucket of candy in her lap. And yes, this scared the shit out of us. But after we all laughed at ourselves for being idiots, we all said trick or treat. But the old lady remained motionless in the chair. The wind was blowing pretty hard, and it suddenly got chillier. We took a few steps closer to her, and that's when we realized that this old lady wasn't moving at all. Her eyes were open, but they were glazed over. Her tongue was hanging out, and her head was tilted to the left. That's when we came to the realization that this lady was dead. I remember how the amount of horror that was in me was so paramount that I actually became calm. None of us could really believe what we were looking at, but I had the wherewithal to call my parents and tell them what we found. EMT and police eventually came out to the house. Me and all my buddies waited at the front because it was too disturbing to wait in the back with the old lady. From what I know, the old lady had died from some sort of heart failure. She had died sitting in her chair with a bucket of Halloween candy in her lap. This happened almost a decade ago, and like I said, I still have nightmares of her in that chair, just dead with her lifeless eyes. Halloween hasn't been the same since. Let my story be a warning for other parents with children out there. Back in 2018, I was taking my then 10-year-old son and his neighborhood friends out for trick-or-treating. My son loved everything about Halloween, and he was dressed as Mario from Nintendo. We lived in a decent neighborhood at the time, and even though my son begged me to go trick-or-treating by himself, I had to say no and go with him because of crazy people out there. My son was pretty upset with me, and I know his friends were allowed to go without their parents, but I didn't care. So, I'm taking my son from house to house. We had hit our entire neighborhood, the neighborhood next to us, and some outlier houses, when I told my son we need to call it a night. It was getting late. We get back to our house, and I go and put a log into the fireplace to heat up. I put on a horror movie and make some hot chocolate for us to warm up, as my son went to the living room to dump all of his candy onto the floor. Despite my son having an attitude about me going trick-or-treating with him, it was actually a really good Halloween night. I heard the microwave go off and went into the kitchen to get the hot chocolate. As I'm mixing it together, I hear this terrifying scream. I dropped my hot chocolate and it shattered and splashed onto the floor. It was my son screaming like that. I rushed over to the living room where he was. He was on the ground by his pile of candy. I could see a bunch of wrappers on the floor. He was holding his mouth and dark blood was gushing from it. His eyes were horrified and he was crying and screaming. I pulled away his hands from his mouth and saw this thin razor stuck in his upper lip. He pointed to a caramel apple that he bit into. Needless to say, I had to rush him to the hospital that Halloween night, and my son needed a few stitches. And get this, the next day, I retraced every house we went to for candy. I spoke with every person, and no one claimed to give out caramel apples as treats. Either someone is lying, or someone had put that apple into my son's bag. It was seriously a nightmarish situation, but my son has since healed and is doing fine. Now, every Halloween since, I thoroughly inspect every piece of candy my son gets. And my advice for all you parents out there is to do the same. Stay safe.
This happened last Halloween. It was me, my friend Rachel, and Devin. We all live in the same neighborhood, and even though we were 14, we still go out trick-or-treating. We get some slack for it from our school buddies, of course, but we never cared because it's our favorite holiday. And for reference, I'm a female. Anyway, we started right at 7 p.m. and started going house to house. Our neighborhood is huge, so we each bought extra large sized pillowcases just to collect all of our candy. The night was going great so far. There were tons of other kids running around in costumes, having just as much fun and really enjoying the Halloween spirit. Well, we got to this one house at the far end of our neighborhood that also serves as a dentist practice. It was Dr. Palpa, who was obviously a dentist, but in his late 60s. He was always a fun house to go to, because he would give out the best candy, despite it most likely giving you cavities. We knocked on Dr. Palpa's door. It takes him a while to answer, but he does. We said trick or treat and held out our candy bags. Dr. Palpa definitely looked tired, and even older than I remembered, but he graciously put handfuls of candy into each of our bags. I even saw him put in Tic Tacs, which was new to see. We thanked him and went on our way. When we were done for the night, we all made our way back to the house to feast on our sugar. We were sitting at my kitchen table, all of our candy spilled out and just having at it. Rachel started to open her Tic Tacs and threw 2 into her mouth, but just as soon as they went into her mouth, she was spitting them out. Devin and I both looked at her and asked what was wrong. She held a tiny case of Tic Tacs up and said something was wrong. They don't taste right. Confused at what she could possibly mean, we started to look at the Tic Tacs. We dumped the rest on the table and looked. At first, they looked like normal white Tic Tacs, but after they fell out, we could see they weren't as white as we thought. In fact, they weren't even shaped like Tic Tacs. They were shaped like teeth. Then, we saw one was clearly a tooth that appeared to have some blood stain on it. We sat there in complete and utter silence, and we realized these weren't Tic Tacs. They were real human teeth. We called down our parents and showed and explained everything to them. Long story short, Dr. Palpa, the dentist who had given us the candy, had purposely done it. He was giving out old patients' teeth that he had saved as Tic Tacs because he thought it'd be humorous. At first, we were going to press charges, but it turns out his mental condition had been rapidly deteriorating. He actually had to close down his practice and is now institutionalized. We're all going trick-or-treating this year again, but you can bet your ass I'm not accepting any Tic Tacs.